Welcome. Thank you for joining us on this, the 16th Sunday in Ordinary Time, and we're delighted that you will be participating in the Lectio reflection on the Gospel of today. The apostles gathered around Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. He said to them, "Come away to a deserted place all by yourselves and rest a while." For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. And they went away in the boat to a deserted place by themselves. Now many saw them going and recognized them, and they hurried there on foot from all the towns and arrived ahead of them. As he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion for them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things.
This is an interesting passage. It's the second part of the sandwich from last week. Last week was the appointment of the apostles, and now they've come back. And it's interesting that they're called apostles here. It's the only time in the Gospel. And it's quite appropriate because apostle means the one who was sent. So clearly it's linked to the commission that they had from Jesus. So in a sense, it leans back to the past, to what just was obedient before. And it also looks forward. It's really the preparation for the multiplication of the loaves. So it's sort of in that middle situation. So they come back, and then Jesus invites them to come away to a deserted place. I think this is one of those things about the insiders and the outsiders, that very often Jesus gives the parable, and then when they're alone, he explains it. So clearly this is an example of that. And of course the desert in the Gospels and in Israel and that was a place of prayer, place of reflection. We tend to think of the desert as something just barren, but it's often associated with those particular things. So they were just there by themselves. And then Mark's emphasis on the enthusiasm of the crowds. Actually they come from all around. There's a great crowd. So clearly the movement of Jesus is a big movement. It was interesting that it says there in that particular text that they didn't recognise Jesus, they recognised them. In other words, it was Jesus and his team, if I can put it that way. And it just highlights the fact that this is a major movement within. I like the reference to compassion. In the Gospel, Jesus has compassion on the leper in chapter 1, and it moves him to do that. Later on, there's a request that he have compassion, and a miracle follows. And that compassion, one of the commentators said that compassion is the bridge between sympathy and action. And I thought that was appropriate. And in Luke, you've got the Good Samaritan. He had compassion. And also Jesus healing the widow's son. He had compassion. So compassion is a very active feeling. Sympathy is perhaps a personal feeling, but compassion is very active. So I thought it significant to mention that. And the other important thing in the text there is about them being sheep without a shepherd. That's a term that's used in the Old Testament. And of course, the Gospel of John is going to have a chapter on Jesus, I am the Good Shepherd. And in the Old Testament, it is often applied to the inadequacy of the shepherds, and that God himself will come and be the shepherd. So that reference there to being like sheep without a shepherd, sort of Jesus is taking up that role and providing them with a shepherd, as it was said to be in the Old Testament. So it's a short passage looking back, being part of what's gone before and being a preparation for what is about to happen.
It's a very beautiful passage for me, just in terms of, because Mark, everything happens very fast.
That's right, yeah.
So it's like, okay, everyone's doing a great job. There's thousands of people come and have a rest. So they go to have the rest of it. Here comes thousands of people. But I love Jesus's response, because my response would be, oh, wow, aren't we doing a great job? I'm really popular. Everyone's coming to hear me. It's not what he says. He looks with compassion and says, they're like sheep without a shepherd.
Right.
Therefore, I will teach them. So it's because of their need, not because of his
Right.
star
Right.
charismatic status.
Yeah.
So, it's really quite a beautiful response to a great need, like we'll see with their great hunger. That's why he's doing it, not because he's brilliant. Clearly he was brilliant,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
that's not the reason.
No.
My amazement was the two responses to enthusiasm of the apostles coming back, telling their story,
Yeah.
and very quickly it seems Jesus took them somewhere else for a quiet space, and I presume to put all of that
Yeah.
into a context.
Yeah.
That it's not about us, it's about something
them.
else.
That's
right.
But then in the midst of, while that's happening, another crowd comes along, enthusiastic, and Jesus responds in another way.
Yep.
And that's with the word that you've
Yep.
both used,
That's right.
compassion.
Yes.
So there was a greater need
Than their rest.
Than their rest.
Yes.
Yeah, so I take your point. I could get cheesed off too. But, that happens, doesn't it?
I was looking for another verse, and I can't remember where it is, but I thought there was a verse about the apostles coming back, and it sort of suggested that they were having, wasn't it wonderful?
Yeah.
And then Jesus or the text says, but what is more important is what's written in the book of life.
Yeah.
In other words, it's not just the fact
Yes.
that they succeeded in the
Yes.
ministry,
Yes.
but I couldn't find the text.
Yeah.
However, but I'm sure it's there somewhere.
Good.
I'm sure
Well,
it's there.
I'm sure it's there. No dispute. So we invite you now to consider how the word is speaking to your heart today, to take a moment and ponder that. What do you feel? What's your response to the text? Welcome back. We're now going to listen to the text read a second time.
The apostles gathered around Jesus and told him all they had done and taught. He said to them, "Come away to a deserted place, all by yourselves, and rest a while." For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. And they went away in the boat to a deserted place by themselves. Now, many saw them going and recognised them, and they hurried there on foot from all the towns and arrived ahead of them. And as he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things.
I thought about going away and reflecting. I think that was the thing that was important after their ministry. And I think it's a real danger in the life of people who are sent, that they get so busy doing what the work of the sent and just forgetting the context in which they are actually doing it. So I thought that maybe I needed to set aside some days on a regular basis to just reflect.
It's funny, the words that struck me on the second reading, I thought, oh, he's asking me to rest a while. And I thought, I can't remember hearing Jesus ask me to rest a while, but I think that's the one that I will take up
Yeah.
because I can fill my day, and sometimes you're overcommitted. You don't take that time. So I'm going to ponder those words and put it into action.
Very good. If the work that I do is meant to be my mission, the work of Jesus, then I need to take time to reflect on that, to be sure that that's integral to my own understanding and my own engagement with it, but that it's all for a purpose, and that's in a ministry to people, that they may come to see through the things that my mission is about, that's bringing them into the mystery of that presence of God who was with us all. So I know that's a jumble, but that's the kind of two things, one leading into the other, that I'd like to reflect on this week.
Well, we invite you now to consider what is it that you feel called to put into action after hearing and contemplating the words from the Gospel of today. So take a moment now and consider what is it that you're called to do. Well, welcome back. We know our best intentions can stay best intentions unless we ask for God's help to give us a spirit of commitment and perseverance in that. So we take a moment now and turn our hearts and minds to God and ask God for that assistance in our daily life to put those words into action. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so delighted. We really do consider each and every one of you a very special person in our ministry, and encourage you to go to our website, lectiodivina.com.au, and there you will find additional material to help you develop your faith journey or faith life. And we're going to conclude now with the prayer from the Mass of the day.
Show favour, O Lord, to your servants, and mercifully increase the gifts of your grace, that, made fervent in hope, faith and charity, they may be ever watchful in keeping your commands. Through Christ our Lord.